Shalom and welcome to day 31 of Counting the Omer, and this is again once more on my blog, coming not from the Yadat Yeshua synagogue, but coming once more from my living room, more thoughts and ideas. And one of the things that someone said to me the other day was that they were going to begin looking at the length of my hair from the beginning of the lockdown and compare it day by day all the way through the counting of the Omer running up to Shavuot. So you've got a track record visually of how my hair has grown during that period. And like a lot of people, we're all beginning to wonder, it's just beginning to get a little fluffy, a little bit longer than we might want. And we even jokingly in the synagogue had a competition running at the beginning of the lockdown whether we were all going to let our beards grow. Especially the women loved that idea, but so they decided they weren't going to let their beards grow. But we're trying to trim beards and cut hair and watching news presenters and weather forecasters all begin to get a little bit more fluffy than they were 6 weeks ago, and finding it difficult to cut our hair. At some point we're all going to have to do it, I guess. But what does it mean about cutting hair? Because the moment I think about cutting your hair, of course, it raises all kinds of issues, doesn't it? And it was just contemplating this today, thinking about having a haircut and how I might go about it, what the Torah says about this. And of course, Leviticus, Vayikra 19:27 talks about this, cutting the corners of the head or the sides of the hair or face, or clipping the edge of your beard and so on. The Mishnah obviously goes into this in detail, talking about not cutting the sides here. So we have the piyot, which are traditionally seen, of course, in many Orthodox Jewish circles as well. Is this what we should be doing? Maybe we should be thankful that we can't cut our hair right now. Maybe we just let it go, let our beards grow. And someone said to me once, "Rabbi, why don't you have a proper rabbinic beard?" And I thought, that's interesting. I'm sure that the many reform or liberal rabbis would raise an eyebrow at that as well, let alone the women rabbis possibly around the world would raise an eyebrow or two at that one too. Are you even meant to have a beard? Is there a command to have a beard? Well, of course there isn't. And we've got to ask the question, really, what are we even talking about when we think about things like this? What does it mean? To me, you can see I don't have the piyot on the side of my face. I'm clearly not an Orthodox Jew. I'm a Messianic Jew. I think Ezekiel actually helped us out a little bit with this. In chapter 44, it says about shaving the head and not shaving your head. And it seems that through tradition and background of the times that we understand from all this, that the tradition or the understanding was that it was either a morning that you would shave your head, and of course it's reflected in possibly in some of the Nazarite vows possibly as well. But the idea being that the shaving or in some forms even cutting marks into your hair or into your beard in some way was linked to paganism and idolatry. Yet again, we find a Torah commandment specifically addressing the issue of idolatrous practice and not doing this. We can think about possibly even in those monastic times in the church when monks would shave their tonsure into the top of their heads, reflecting possibly from ancient times of various deities that were worshipped. I don't want to get into all of that now. You'll know if you've done your research on this what that is. But we are forbidden clearly to be doing that. And it seems to me that this command speaks to our loyalty to God, not whether we've got a beard and how we trim it or shave it, or what do we even mean by the corners. That's all open to interpretation. And the rabbis made their decisions, but other decisions are equally possible. But it seems to me that the way we cut our hair and a beard, if we have one, and what we do with that is sending a message to people around us, just like the way we wear our clothing, what we wear as our clothing, how we wear our clothing. We're sending that silent message to people all the time about who we are, our identity, the values that we uphold, and more importantly, the God we worship. And the values that we have in the Torah are telling us to be different from the nations, be set apart from the nations, but to make it clear that we do not worship idols, but that we only worship the God of Israel. We're not to reflect any other practices in what we do. So I suspect that when we finally get the courage to go and cut our hair or our beards in some form or shape or way here, that we shouldn't feel guilty about this, but we do need to be careful what we're saying. but the messages that we send. And one of my favourite analogies with this, just to kind of lean it over into the clothing thing for a second, is some people who are strong supporters of football teams, who walk around in their football team's kit, in their home or away strip, depending. They are sending a message by what they're wearing. And the same goes with our hair, how we deal with it, the length, whether we conform to fashion or we choose not to conform to fashion, or how we deal with these situations. And I think also how with our beards as men as well, whether we adopt certain rabbinic orthodox practices or whether we don't. All of these send messages to the people around us about the God we serve, how we worship him, how we serve him. But above all, remember, in all of this, we are to be loyal, completely loyal to the God of Israel. And everything about us should reflect that. Right down, yes, to the cutting of hair and our beards. Thank you for watching today. I will see you tomorrow for the next instalment of our Counting the Omer blog. Toda Rabbi.